Hey, we're live with another SC Unfinished Business interview. We've got Alex Rees with us from season 5 back in Maine, our last season there. And hosting again tonight is Taylor. And we're going to have a good time with Alex. So, why don't we start about 2025, Alex Rees? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. My name's Alex Rees. I'm 37. I am originally from England, but I live in New York with my husband and our two cats.
Okay.
Magical. All right. So now let's get to know 2017, Alex.
Yep.
Let's get back into the mindset of how did you originally hear about Survival Challenge back then?
This is
And
such a good question. I have been racking my brains over it, and I genuinely can't remember exactly. I'm a big Survivor fan, so it's most likely I had just come across it on a forum or something like that. But then I also totally got in my head about it. I am also a big Maine fan. I love Maine. When I was an undergrad student, I came over from the UK and spent 4 summers working as a camp counselor at a sleepaway camp in Maine. And so I've always just loved the state. And so I like subscribed to a Maine travel magazine. So I actually almost wondered if maybe I had read an article or something about it there and it was just like an intersection of interests, but I really can't remember. It was probably a Survivor fan thing.
well, if you can't remember, then what were your thoughts when you got the email or the note that said you've been cast? What were your initial
I think it was kind of like an oh crap moment in terms of like really excited, don't get me wrong, but also just like, and it's funny because I'm now feeling so many of these emotions again that when you have to kind of like switch your mindset from being like, oh, that seems like a fun random thing to do to this is a fun random thing that's happening. There were definitely moments of panic and just like, what have I got myself in for here? Yeah, like a lot of nervous anticipation, I would say.
So take us then to that magical moment when you step on the field in Maine, all of that already going on. How did that play out for you?
This is a really good one. So, I remember this so well because I was running late. I was like fashionably late. And I just remember the whole time I was coming, I'd stayed at a Howard Johnson in Portland. Love a Howard Johnson hotel. This is not sponsored content. I just love a Howard Johnson. I had stayed there the night before, so I was coming out that morning and just like stuck in traffic, running late. I remember texting you and everyone being like, I'm so sorry. Like, what do I do? This is terrible. And I was the last person there. I remember arriving and then everything was so quick. And like somebody took my bags and somebody was like checking to make sure I didn't have any contraband. And I was like, oh gosh, this is really serious. Like, I didn't even think about bringing contraband. I should have thought about bringing contraband. And then it was all happening so fast. Blindfolded, I was like, what's going on? This is mad. I wasn't expecting any of it. And I just remember then sitting in this car, blindfolded, while felt like it was hours being driven somewhere. And I couldn't actually feel them, but you know, when you can just like feel other people's presence, I could feel the other players in the car with me. And I was just like, losing my mind. It's so funny because my whole journey up to Maine, I had been looking at people on the plane, like I'd been looking at people at the airport, like, are you going to play this? Is this a moment? Nobody was, of course. But then when I was actually around all these other people, it was almost like I was shutting down. It was totally overwhelming. I remember we get out the car, we were like, being led through, I guess, some woods, but you're blindfolded, so you don't know. I definitely remember I was completely fell over like 3 times. Whoever was leading me did a great job just to keep me standing. And then and then it was just like blindfolds off, and I'm standing right in front of Carolyn from Survivor 30. And I was just like, ah, this is bad. And then it was all totally overwhelming.
Well,
But yeah, I remember it so vividly. I remember it all. And then I was like trying to play it cool because I recognized the returning players, survivors, and there were also all these other people. And I'm actually not that great in like group scenarios at first. I do a lot better with people one on one. So I was trying to manage that and also just being like wanting to tell everyone, I'm sorry, it was me, I was late, don't hold it against me. It was mad. A lot
In the
going on.
meantime, everybody's blindfolded and wouldn't have known it was you anyway, right? So
See, I'm sure I told everyone. I'm sure I completely gave the game away. So there you go, typical.
well, do you have any favorite memories from your season?
I mean, I know this is like the obvious answer, but like, I really just so thoroughly enjoyed all of it. I've been really struggling when thinking back on it all to kind of like pick a couple of things. I remember after the first day of challenges where we had been separated into like two, I guess, like tribes, but it wasn't the real tribes because we got switched again, and it was the men versus the women. And we did a bunch of challenges that whole day, I guess, like for reward. They were reward challenges. And for the reward, we got to take a boat ride. I don't know where actually. We were on a lovely boat. It was very nice, and there were snacks. I loved that. Love a moment for snacks because I really wasn't expecting to eat for like however long the experience was. So that was really fun. I did enjoy the challenges a lot more than I expected. I am quite competitive with myself, not with other people, I don't think. So I was expecting that to be something that I in a sense, almost found too stressful to enjoy in the moment. I thought that would be something I would look back on and be like, wow, I can't believe I did those things. That was fun. But I did really enjoy them in the moment. Some of my favorites were definitely axe throwing. Honestly, like that shouldn't have been allowed. I should not have been allowed to throw an axe, but I'm really glad that I did. And I hit the target once. So that was a real high. And I mean, I really did just enjoy everything about this is the weird part, and I feel like I didn't want to say this because it makes me sound really snobby, but I really enjoyed how miserable the experience was, just in terms of like sleeping outside. That was horrible. Not being able to brush my teeth, that was horrible. I'm so not cut out for any of that outdoorsy stuff. I literally, I think everyone had bought like legitimate camping clothes and like camping blankets, and I had like my cat's old blanket because I'd only remembered in the morning of that I didn't own a sleeping bag or anything. So I was woefully underprepared. And I just loved it. I loved being completely out of my element. It was really fun.
you have to say a word about the food challenge, Alex.
Oh. Oh my gosh. Oh, actually, do you know what's funny? Apparently, and I should apologize, and I'm going to let everyone know I'm going to do much better this time. Apparently, and I didn't realize, I was just cursing up a storm throughout that entire challenge. And people were like, well, we can't be filming you when you're swearing this much. I'm sorry. So I'm going to do my best not to do that again. Oh my gosh, the gross food challenge. It was gross. I can't remember what half of the things were. I remember there was a lot of very suspicious fish. I think most fish is suspicious, to be honest. Actually, I don't really eat fish. I don't eat seafood at all. And my husband is Portuguese, so that's still a point of contention with his family, but I just can't do it. But in this context, I think that definitely that challenge came at a point I remember. My tribe had been doing so well in all the challenges, and every time we won a challenge, it was like, okay, well, we're going to lose the next one. Like, there's no way we can keep this up. And we definitely had like an underdog's vibe about us. And this was definitely a point during the day that I had totally gotten into my own head and was like, they're going to vote you off if you lose this chat, which they did actually. So fine, maybe I didn't get in my own head, but I remember thinking like, Alex, if you do not do everything you can to win this challenge, you're going to really regret it. And so I ate everything. I can't, like, I remember, yeah, a little fish. There was something that the texture was just absolutely horrendous. It was like eating glue paste. I couldn't tell you what that was in retrospect. And then the last thing, I can't, yeah, do you know what? I think I remember about that challenge is I deliberately paid no attention when it was being explained what the items were because I knew as soon as I knew that I was eating like this or that, and it could have just been like you're eating an obscure vegetable. I've been like, oh, I don't want to do that. But because I didn't know, I was like, fine, let's just pretend this is all something you like. But the last thing was this huge meaty thing. I don't remember what it was. John, do you remember what it was? This is years ago. It's obviously still imprinted here, but yeah, had to do it, had to do it. I don't know if I could do it again. You know, that's funny. There was that question that was like, oh, sorry, I don't know if I'm getting ahead of myself, but where it was like, what challenges would you like to do again? I was like, would I like to do the gross food challenge again? And I was like, well, maybe I actually could do it again, but I'm not sure I could. I feel like I've become a picky eater in my old age. So I don't know. We'll see.
You will have to see. Do you want to ask the next one, John?
Go ahead, Taylor.
Oh, okay. Well, all right. So let's now, after your whole experience, you
Yes.
went through everything. What are the takeaways that you have from SC? Like, what did you learn about yourself, connections, just anything that you wanted to speak about after your experience in Maine?
Yeah. I think loved everybody I had the chance to get to know, from the cast, from the volunteers, just from folks that I got to spend time with there. I think that was a really lovely thing about the experience that I definitely hadn't realized going into it was just, like how close the community was among the cast, but also everyone who was there helping out or even just spectating. I hope we gave them a good show. So that was really lovely. Definitely made a bunch of really strong connections there. In terms of takeaways, I mean, I did find it to be a very humbling experience, and I definitely appreciated that. I enjoyed that felt like I was challenging myself in so many respects. Like, again, the outdoorsy stuff, the social stuff, just like not quitting because I wanted a Diet Coke at like 11 o'clock on the first day or whatever. So I took a lot away from it in those respects. And I think it definitely, it was a really, it was a really good reminder that like, I'm so glad I did it, but I can't do those sorts of things often, which is really funny that I'm now coming to do it again. But here we all are.
Speaking of which, we're only 70 some days
I
away.
know.
What's going through your mind as it's getting closer?
It's a really good thing. So actually, literally 3 or 4 days before the game starts is my husband and my 10 wedding anniversary. So we are actually on a super luxury cruise as our wedding anniversary treat to ourselves. So I'm literally coming off this like glamorous boat where I will have had spa days, really nice food, the whole thing, flying to Chicago and then starting the game the next day. And I think, again, that's going to be like the perfect light switch moment, just going from one extreme to the other. So I know I'm going to be thinking about it all the time in the run up, but I'm also kind of thinking that I won't be in a good way. I'm hoping that having this trip will mean I don't overthink things too much. I do feel a ton, like, again, loved everyone from my season, and I think we were a really strong season. I don't say that comparative to any other season, but like there were a bunch of really strong players on my season, and I don't take it lightly that I'm back representing for everyone. And so I do feel like I'm going to, really need to put my all into it, not to let season five down, not to let season five down too badly, setting reasonably low expectations here. I just, yeah, I'm trying not to think about it too much because I know once I do, I will absolutely spiral, is really what it comes down to.
Well, let's
It's
not have you
mad. It's gone so
roll.
quickly. It's gone so fast.
But to sum everything up, if you had to
Yes.
describe in one word, no explanation, just one word, of how you're going to tackle the season, or how are you going to go into this game in one word? What would that be?
British.
Okay.
Well, hello. We're here with Katie Brocato from season 5, our last in Maine, and co-hosting tonight, actually running the interviews, are Taylor and Isaiah from our live stream and video teams. So, Katie, why don't you get started by telling us a little bit about yourself?
All right. Well, I am Katie Brocato. I am 49 years old and I live in Northern Illinois, which is about halfway between Milwaukee and Chicago. I'm a special education teacher of 27 years, but I'm currently on leave for a very special reason. After 8 years of trying to expand my family with my husband, Paul, we were able to welcome our son Giovanni into our family in January by means of adoption. And so we're just really blessed, and I get to stay home for the next year and a half from work to be a mom.
That is amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Also, very nice to meet you. So let's take it back to 2017 to how did you originally hear about Survival Challenge and what were your initial thoughts that made you go, you know what, I want to do that?
Yeah, so I had played a lot of online reality games in the early 2000s. And when I met my husband, Paul, I kind of stopped playing because I wasn't single anymore and um, and I was pretty busy. But somebody had invited me to play a Harry Potter themed game and dragged me out of retirement because I love Harry Potter. And this person was a moderator and they had known about Durham Warriors Survival Challenge and they said they really needed females. And they just really encouraged me to apply. And so I did, and I got accepted. And I was just excited to book my trip out to Boston and fill my belly with pasta and cannolis before the challenge.
So during your trip out to Boston for all the pasta cannolis, or even during that, were there any funny or interesting stories leading up to your participation in the event?
Um, Before I went to Boston, I just mostly remember like starting to like I better get into shape. And I remember living on the 35th floor in downtown Chicago trying to start a fire on my balcony with flint, which was not successful. And then the day of the challenge, we stopped in Portland, Maine. And I was like, we're going to go to the best Italian restaurant, high rated, to fill my belly some more with more pasta. And I ended up having like the worst meal ever. But I was like forcing myself, like gagging through it because I was like, I have to eat before these next few days. So that was pretty much all of that.
All right, well, you've just gorged your belly full of all the Italian food. So paint the scene for us. What was going through your mind the moment you stepped out into Survival Challenge at that location? Like what did you see?
Yeah.
Give us a play-by-play.
I was a hot mess. So I was like in the car, I was nauseous, I was nervous, I had tears in my eyes. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to redo my hair. And I all of a sudden like pulled it up off my face. And my husband thought I was nuts. And he's like, I don't know what's wrong with you right now. And then all of a sudden, my door opens and Bob Crawley is standing there and opening my door, escorting me out of the car. And I was all of a sudden like went from freaking out in a bad way to like, oh my gosh, hi, and just totally fangirling. And then after check-in, I remember being blindfolded and put into a car with another contestant. We weren't really supposed to talk that much, but we did like just exchange pleasantries, like, nice to meet you. I look forward to getting to know you better. And all of a sudden I was like, I really recognize your voice. That's really odd. You sound like somebody I've met before. And then when I got out of the car and we blindfolded, it was Susie Smith from Gabon. And so that was kind of cool. And so it was just excited. We were kind of put into a group and we had an opening challenge and it was just a lot of fun. So it was really exciting to get started.
So during your season, what are some of your favorite memories from your season? And then are there any particular challenges that might have been your favorite?
Yeah, definitely. I think my like first big memory was just really loving like my opening group. And that evening we were, sleeping, and in the middle of the night, to the two players kind of spooning next to me on the ground, we're like, hey, us three, let's be a final three. Let's do this. Let's make an alliance. And so I just really remember that moment and feeling really, really loyal to this first group of three, and just kind of that general first group of like, I think 8 of us. And I really made a lot of game moves, just kind of so loyal. But I was separated from them in a tribe like schoolyard pick. And I was just, like, what if, because one of them like went on to final 5 and the other one won the game. And so I just have like all these what if moments from that first night. The other thing that I remember is the lopsided barrel challenge. We had to balance on this lopsided barrel and pick up puzzle pieces across a field and then finish the puzzle first. And I was the first one to go for our tribe to balance on this barrel while Nick and Sunday were pushing. And I just felt that it was very, very hard. It was super stressful. All eyes were on me, and then I fell and I had to go back to the beginning and start over. But at the end of the day, I made it across the field on the second try. And I just remember when Trisha finished the puzzle first, like how much pride I had, and just like running and screaming and this big group of hug, just because it just felt so good. So it was like the most stressful challenge, but also the most rewarding challenge. And then the final thing that I remember was there was a lot of rain. We were a tribe that kept losing over and over again. And we were very miserable. And we're sitting at this tribal council, and all of a sudden walks out Ethan Zahn. And he was there to conduct the tribal council with Bob Crowley for like torch snuffing. And we just all were like lit up. We were so excited that we were all down in the dumps of having to vote somebody out in the rain. And then the son of Ethan Zahn came out.
Well, are there any particular challenges that you're hoping to see again, participate in, or any that you don't want to see?
The one that I probably would want to do again was the gross food challenge. I just felt that it wasn't too bad. I didn't really think that the live grubs were that terrible. The dried sardines were a little hard to chew through, but I was actually just appreciative of the calories. And so at the end of the day, if I have to do the gross food challenge again, I would welcome it.
So after your journey in season 5, post-season, were there any takeaways that you were able to kind of gain from your season, whether that's within yourself, maybe a connection or a friendship that you made with someone in the game? Give us a little bit of that.
Yeah, so it was a men's versus women's season. There was some twists there with that. And so I was just really proud that I was the last woman voted out on my tribe. And I was one of the last people voted out before the merge. And the other thing was I built a really strong connection with Sunday Berquist, both in the game and then out of the game. And it was just something that she became very inspiring to me. She was a woman of faith. She's a mother. She had a beautiful family, and I just liked the way she carried herself and lived out her faith. And in 2020, I was diagnosed with cancer. And as many people know Sunday's story, she was a huge support to me during that time. And she really taught me to be a grit girl and push through. And so she will always hold a very special place in my heart.
I love that. That's awesome. Let's jump ahead now back to 2025, Katie. We are just about a little over 60 days out from Survival Challenge Unfinished Business. So what are your thoughts going through your head right now as you have to be prepared to go to Macomb for the first time?
So I really, as being a new mom, I've been thinking like, how am I going to fit in some exercise time, watch these survival challenge interviews, maybe try to rewatch an old season during Giovanni's naps or tummy time. It's not going the best, but I'm going to do my best. I think going into this, and especially knowing that, I just really want to be open. I just have this mindset of like, I want to be open and have organic relationships and alliances that will develop. I don't really want to think about all the preconceived notions. I know that I'm in a very different place in my life. I have very different perspectives and experiences now, and I'm sure everybody else does too. And so I just kind of want to take it, the 2025 season, for how it's going to experience as it rolls out day one. And then I think probably the biggest thing is I just I've literally at 3 a.m. when I'm feeding Giovanni, I'm thinking about the elements, the rain and the cold, and how terrible it was. And those are big factors that should distract from the game. So I'm like, what am I going to wear? And I'm just like going through my head, what am I going to buy? What am I going to wear? How am I going to stay comfortable so I can just kind of stay focused on the game when it starts? But yeah, those are just kind of the things that are on my mind at like 3 a.m. So.
All right. Before we let you go, one last bonus question for you. In one word with no explanation, how would you, or how do you think you're planning to kind of go into this game this time around? Give us one word, no explanation.
Open-minded.